This is a redo of my third speech. I didn't have all four parts of the oral citations. I didn't use ethos early on, and my call to action wasn't strong enough. More than 1.2 billion people around the world live in poverty, with very little hope of that changing. I have researched this organization extensively and would like to inform you on the job they carry out. Agros International is a non-profit organization with the goal of seeing poor, rural families own agricultural land, attain economic self-sufficiency, and realize their God-given potential, and pass on to future generations the values and resources that enable them to flourish. Agros addresses 5 areas when helping those struggling in poverty: land, market-led agriculture, health and well-being, financial empowerment, and education. I'll begin by discussing the problems associated with each of these areas. The people Agros is reaching out to don't own their own land. They rent it, which takes a large percentage of their income and keeps the family from making a profit. Even successful farmers need a place to sell their products. It is difficult to find a good market to sell the goods farmers produce. Knowing which crops are most profitable and having access to them is also a problem. There is no way for many impoverished farmers to tell if they are selling their crops at the right price. The money they make is often immediately paid to loan agents, and getting necessities is difficult. In poverty-stricken households and communities, access to clean and safe drinking water is limited. A constant and nutritious food source is also hard to find and maintain. According to the United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization, estimates of about 805 million people of the 7.3 billion people in the world, or 1 in 9 people, were suffering from chronic undernourishment in 2012 to 2014. Healthcare, even the most basic medical necessities, are few and far between, and often impossible to get to. Preventable illness and diseases are very common in impoverished communities, affecting children and adults. The health of the family comes before any focus can be shifted to gaining financial stability. Families living in poverty need money in order to survive, and due to the position they find themselves in, cannot make ends meet. They're stuck in debt and can't budget, save, or invest. Without help, millions living in poverty cannot find a foothold to get out of the ever-increasing debt. According to the World Bank, in 2011, poverty is living on less than $1.25 per day, and around 1 billion people around the world fit this category. Agros says many of these families live on an average of 50 cents per day. Without money, food, or clean water, education is generally not at the top of the list for impoverished families. They are focused on surviving on little to nothing, and the schools are hard to find. According to PovertyLiving.com, in 2013, there were approximately 72 million children out of the school system throughout the world. Adults and children are usually uneducated, and this makes life harder for them. Financial, health, agricultural, and other kinds of education are essential to get out of poverty. Education is not seen as a necessity in many impoverished communities. By knowing the problems, Agros is able to provide solutions that help improve the lives of those in need. Agros International purchases large pieces of quality land and loans it to members of a community. The land is tested and always has a good clean water source. People previously living in poverty are invited to join this new community and gain access to the Agros model. Once land is acquired, the people must learn which crops are profitable. Agros brings in personnel with agricultural expertise. Market information and training on which crops and how to sell those crops is provided. Once the people are stable, they are loaned more land to increase their profits. The goal is to make new members of this community capable of sustaining themselves without Agros. Agros attempts to make successful businessmen and women, and once the loan is paid off, they are given the title to the land. It is hard for families to focus on making a living when sickness is so common. Vulnerable families are given access to nutritious food and hygiene necessities. Once Agros has made sure families are reducing health risks and improving in health, they take a step back. The goal of Agros is to make these previously impoverished people capable of taking care of themselves and their communities. Health clinics run by members of the community are set up, and reliance on outside help is not necessary. With good health, members of the Agros community can focus on becoming financially stable. With plans unique to each member of the community, Agros provides loans to families, making it feasible to pay it back and own the land. Financial training such as budgeting, saving, and investing are taught and usually passed on to the next generations. With stable finances comes the ability to provide education to the community's children. Schools for all ages are essential to continue the climb out of poverty that these families are struggling with. When a community is large enough for a school to be built and supported, education is provided for not just those living in the community, but for the surrounding areas as well. Education is necessary for children, teens, and adults to become independent, successful, and self-sufficient. These 5 areas of life, land, market-led agriculture, health and well-being, financial empowerment, and education, are what Agros International focuses on. By helping in these ways, thousands of families have been able to make their way out of the clutch of poverty. If you would like to make an impact on the lives of those living in poverty, or would like more information regarding Agros International, or if you would like to donate to this organization, you can visit www.agros.org.